When you think about your closest relationships, have you ever noticed that little voice in the back of your head? The one that's kind of keeping score? Look, we all do it, right? We build this mental ledger where we track every single slight, every mistake, every time we felt wronged. Today, we're going to open up that ledger and take a really close look. So let's just ask it straight up. Do we treat love like a scoreboard? I mean, really think about it. Is your relationship a genuine partnership? Or, if you're being honest, does it sometimes feel more like a quiet competition? Where you're always making sure you're not getting the short end of the stick. And you know what this looks like in real life? It's when a fight you had 6 months ago suddenly pops back up out of nowhere. It's hearing those words, "you always do this," or "you never listen." Or how about this one? That quiet, unspoken feeling that since you did something nice, you're owed one. Every single one of these is another line item in the ledger, just adding to a grudge that gets heavier and heavier.
And what's the result of all this? We end up hauling this heavy ledger around with us all the time. It's invisible, sure, but man, you can feel the weight. It's filled with every single debt we think we're owed, and it just poisons our relationships from the inside out.
But what if there's another way to do this? What if we could just drop the ledger? Well, that brings us to our first section, and it's a pretty radical idea. No record of wrongs. And here it is. It's a line from what a lot of people call the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. So simple, but so powerful. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Just think about that for a second. It doesn't keep a list. It doesn't add up the mistakes. It just lets them go. And this gets even cooler when you dig into the original Greek. The word here is logizomai. Now, that doesn't sound very poetic, right? And that's because it's not. It's actually an accounting term. It literally means to not calculate or to not enter an item into the books. So it's not just about forgetting. It's about making a conscious choice to not even add up the wrongs against you in the first place. And you have to understand, for the people this was written to in ancient Corinth, this was huge. They were literally suing each other, dragging each other to court, demanding their pound of flesh, and keeping meticulous records of who wronged whom. So Paul comes in and asks this absolutely mind-blowing question: why not rather be wronged? His point was, isn't it better to just take the loss, to absorb the hit, than to win the argument but destroy the love in the process? Okay, so to really grasp this idea of just erasing the debt, we have to look at the ultimate example. That's what we'll get into in section 2, the ultimate forgiveness. And here's the absolute kicker. This kind of forgiveness, it's not something you earn. It's not a prize for being good. The love being shown here in Romans 5:8 happened while we were still sinners. In other words, when the debt was at its highest, when we were the least deserving, that's when it was given. So in this ultimate example, Jesus doesn't just refuse to keep score. He goes a step further and pays the entire debt himself. I mean, think about it. At the very moment of being wronged in the most extreme way possible, from the cross, the prayer is, "Father, forgive them." The ledger wasn't just set aside. It was totally wiped clean, torn up, gone. Okay, so that's a beautiful, massive idea. But how on earth do we actually do that? In our messy everyday lives? That's what Section 3 is all about, how we put this into practice and finally bury the hatchet. Well, Colossians actually gives us a pretty clear 3-step game plan. First, it's a choice, an active decision. You have to choose to forgive. Second, you're not just flying blind. The instruction is to forgive the same way you've been forgiven, so you have a model to follow. And third, you put on love. You make it the glue, the thing that holds everything else together. But this is where our human brains kick in, right? This is the question we all ask. Okay, I get it, but what's the limit? How many times do I have to do this? Surely there's a line. And you know what? You're not alone. Peter, one of Jesus' best friends, asked the exact same thing. And he comes up with what sounds like a pretty generous number, right? 7 times. I mean, forgiving someone for the same mistake 7 times, that feels like a lot. It's a nice, measurable number. It feels fair. But then Jesus just blows that number right out of the water. Not 7, 77. Or in some translations, 70 times 7. And look, the point isn't to get out your calculator and start counting. The point is that real forgiveness, the kind that closes the ledger for good, doesn't have a limit. It's meant to be boundless.
Okay, and we have to be super clear about something right here. This is so important. Forgiveness is not permission. It is not a green light for someone to keep hurting you. You can absolutely forgive someone in your heart, close their page in your ledger, while also setting up strong, healthy boundaries to protect yourself. The goal here is your own inner peace and healing, not to enable someone's bad behavior. So, let's circle all the way back to that ledger we talked about at the beginning. We've seen the problem, we've looked at the solution. Now for our final thought, the freedom of letting go.
Because that's the real payoff, isn't it? It's freedom. It's the peace you feel when you finally put down that heavy weight of old hurts and grudges. It's what the Bible calls perfect unity, that kind of deep, real connection that can only exist when you've finally thrown the scoreboard away for good. And so that leaves us with one last question, and this one is just for you. Think about those ledgers you're still carrying, those old hurts, those scores you're still keeping track of. Whose ledger are you ready to close today?